Okay, so I think we can probably go ahead and get started. Um, just so can honor everyone who's logged in on time here. We'll probably have some more people joining us, so you're probably going to hear people pinging in and out as they join. But first of all, welcome to our Boston University Paralegal Studies Program webinar. My name is Stacy Moyer, and I am the program manager for the program. Joe Spada is our program director. You see him in your video view there. I'm going to go ahead before we get started and mute everyone, just so we don't have any feedback coming in. You can feel free to chat any questions, but we will have Q&A at the end where I'll open up everyone. So in the meantime, feel free to chat, but I have muted everyone's line at this point. Joe, I muted you too, so I'm just gonna... You still there, Joe? Okay, I still can't hear you, Joe.
Can you hear?
Whoop. Hold on, everyone. Okay, Joe?
Sorry. Yep, sorry.
Perfect, that's okay. So, I'm probably just not going to mute everyone just so that doesn't happen. But if everyone wants to personally mute their lines, they can go ahead and do that. Or I just ask not to speak during the webinar. So I'm going to just introduce the program here for you. And then I'm going to hand it over to Joe. We're looking to keep it, the slide presentation about a half hour, and then we're going to open it up to a Q&A. So just a little bit about Boston University. We are located here in Boston. And with that in mind, the focus of this webinar is going to be on our classroom paralegal program. We do have both an online and classroom versions of the program. Same instructors, same content, but we are going to be focusing on the classroom. However, if you have questions about the online class, we can definitely answer those questions, and everything that you're hearing in terms of content and our instructors will still apply to the online program. BU was founded in 1839 and remains one of the fourth largest private research universities in the U.S. We've been ranked nationally for our online course offerings as well as our research abilities here at the BU campus. Today we are going to be talking about an overview of the program. Joe's going to talk about the program development, how it came to be, the curriculum, who teaches in our program, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the registration, and we'll open it up to Q&A. So with that said, I will hand it over to Joe Spada, our program director.
Hi, I'm Joe Spada. I appreciate you coming here. It's a little odd to do it as a webinar. We're still getting used to the technology. Usually I have people in front of me, so bear with me. I've been teaching at Boston University for over 20 years. I started as a lecturer in law, and I primarily focused on legal research and legal writing because that's my expertise in the legal field. I've had several jobs, but primarily my career was spent as a staff attorney for a federal judge, and I drafted his opinions mostly in the civil matter. I'm also a contributing editor to Viewpoint. It's a New England paralegal journal newspaper, and I teach the legal research and writing course that you will be, hopefully signing up for. Obviously a member of the Massachusetts Bar and the Federal Bar as well. So I thought it would be best if we talked about each individual module. Thank you. Oh wait, before we do that, we're going to talk about the program. Okay. We started this Boston University Paralegal program, in some sense, started in 1976. It was, at that time, an ABA modeled program that was American Bar Association ABA, that was really 2-year and part of the associate degree program. And it cost about $20,000. That program stayed with us until I think the year 2000, I started teaching at BU under that old program in 1995. Long story short, our enrollments were dropping in 1995, 6, 7, 1998. And we didn't know why, because the paralegal profession was rising in terms of its demand and employment possibilities. We did a bunch of research and we found that these intense paralegal certificate programs were becoming in vogue, and there were a lot more of them available, and a lot of students were opting for them. We went to Boston University, asked me to go to law firms, in-house counsel places, public sector, and see, like, did it make a difference in whom they were hiring and what they were looking for. And the resounding answer was that it did not make a difference, and that all they really cared about was not the length of a program, but they wanted skill sets. They wanted nuts and bolts. They wanted to know that someone could come in, have a rough understanding of what the position is or where they are in the law, but also start producing as soon as possible. So at that point in time, we decided to go for this condensed version of the program, a lot less expensive and a lot quicker. Hopefully as many nuts and bolts that we can make a successful transition for you into the employment. We've been doing it since 2000. We're very happy with it, and it's working very well. So if you have questions about that, we'll take them on the end, but that's pretty much how the program development came into being. All right, next slide, Stace. The sort of physical dynamics of the program, it does run for 14 weeks. This is the traditional one. We have the boot camp that runs for 14 days in June. If you want, we could talk about that. 9 to 4 on Saturdays, 7 modules, subject matters if you want. Each module is taught by an attorney expert in their field. They're not only teaching this module, but they wrote the book that you will be handed out. Your tuition covers everything. It covers the books, a Westlaw password. There's no hidden fees in there. You do have homework. We understand that a lot of people are juggling a lot. So there's a sort of minimum we want, sort of insist that people do. And then there's more work added if you have the time and the interest for you to play and sort of take it to the next step. Every module is graded. You must maintain a B- average to earn your certificate. Regarding that, it's not been a problem for us. And for the most part, it's not been a problem for students. I mean, it's my way of saying, if you're showing up physically, emotionally, spiritually even, the grading will not be a problem for you. This used to be a pass-fail. When I first created this program, I created it as a pass-fail because you're not matriculating. You know, it's not part of a degree. It's a certificate. So we're given a little more leeway at Boston University in terms of grading when it's a certificate program, or we could do pass-fail. Originally, I did pass-fail because I want the structure, or the intent is for you to produce skill sets. And that's not, and you're adult learners. I mean, grading's not the most important thing. We did change to a graded system mainly because we found it helped students get reimbursement for unemployment sometimes, or some people are already working in corporations, and the corporations are more likely to reimburse if there is a monetary, and same with veterans benefits sometimes. So if any of that applies to you, you might ask Stacy about it later, but that's, you know, the reason we went to a graded. We also wanted a little bit more control over student participation. It's generally not an issue. I will say online, which I know this isn't about, but if you're considering that, it's a little more of an issue because people tend to drop online, but we won't, whatever, we don't have to go there. So our 7 modules: legal research, legal writing. I teach both of those. I'll talk about them individually. Legal technologies. And in this one, we're really trying to give you a little bit of a technological edge over other programs. We like to distinguish ourselves that way, and we know how much, we all know how much technology is affecting every field, and certainly the legal field is no different, so it is there. Sorry, I think I just screwed that up. Business law, family law, and probate. real estate and litigation. Those are your 4 or your 7 basic modules. Again, each will be 2 consecutive Saturdays. That's where we get the 14 Saturdays from. Okay, let's first talk about legal research. The 3 of the modules will take place in a computer lab. Legal research is one of them, so each student will be on their own computer. The reason we do this is so much of legal research is now done online. I will provide you the basics of a manual research, a library research. I think you have to know how to do that. You have to at least be familiar with how it's set up. One, because part of online legal research borrows from traditional library research. And we just want you to be educated about that and to understand that. But primarily now, most law research is going to be done on the computer. And there's 2 basic search engines for this, Westlaw or Lexis. We got Westlaw because they gave us the best contract. One isn't better than the other. If you know one, you pretty much know how to use the other one. I mean, there might be some minor key differences, but for the most part, they're the same. They're very expensive programs, very expensive. The good news is Westlaw wants you to learn their program, and they've given us a good deal that we've included in your tuition. So it's my way of saying it's a wonderful opportunity for you to learn this software. You will only need it 1 or 2 weeks, but it will be available for you for the entire 14 weeks so that you can play with it. Learn it. The more you can navigate your way around that software, the better off you're going to be. And you want to do it, while you've already paid for a password versus when you're at a firm someplace. So learn it on our dime, so to speak, or on your dime. Sorry. And now we're going to talk about technology in the paralegal.
Sorry, Joe. Did you have more to say about
I had
research?
nothing to say, Stacey. We don't take ourselves seriously that much, but we take our work here very seriously, and that's kind of how the classrooms run too. Technology in the paralegal, again, in the computer lab, we're looking to give you as many sort of skill sets with a sort of technological bent so that you can help market yourself, and say, I know this technology, I have experience with it. The hardest job you're going to have to get is going to be that first paralegal job. Second, third, fourth, if you want to climb the ladder, move around, much easier to get. But it's that first one that's a little difficult, and that's why we believe and experience has evidence that if you have knowledge of some of the basic softwares that are very common in the paralegal industry, you'll do very well, and employers would be very interested in that. It gives you something to talk about too on an interview. So some of the basic ones we're going to do is a lot of litigation support. Case Map is a very popular software that's out there. We also do some management, document management. When you're in litigation, you've got interrogatories and depositions and expert names and witnesses. There's a lot of information, takes up a lot of file. You have to know how to enter it into various softwares so that you can just pull it out very quickly. They also are going to teach you something called Clio, which is a law office management software. That means, every minute you're working in a law firm, whether you're a paralegal or an attorney, is billable, usually in 3-minute clips. So you have to keep track of every 3 minutes. Not always, but for a lot of employment out there. This is a software that helps you monitor that, and it helps, you can run it and you can help with it and understand it, and it's just going to help out a lot. We're going to do a little bit of electronic discovery. Electronic discovery is really sort of cutting edge right now. It started around 2007. What electronic discovery is, like Snowden and all the secrets he gave away. A lot of what that is called metadata. And, trust me, I don't teach this one. This isn't my area of expertise, but it goes along the lines of if you sent an email out, or someone sent an email out, an offensive email saying, oh, did you see the skirt she was wearing? Insinuating that there was something sexual behind that. Or we can understand that we would get the actual text of the email. That would be discoverable. But behind that actual text is what's called metadata. And there's, who sent it, what time, from what location, who forwarded it, what were the responses. There's all this information regarding behind that the software keeps track of that is now discoverable. And it is used a lot in lawsuits. So we'll help you understand that and the technological aspects of all of that. There's also, he'll talk about cloud computing, and we all sort of know now a lot of the stuff's put up on the cloud. Very useful, very helpful. We need to understand it. We will use it as paralegals and attorneys. But there's some security concerns that we need to be aware of. If you're putting up clients' confidential information on a cloud, you have to, the client's going to want to be assured, and you're going to want to assure the client that you're following sort of security protocols regarding cloud management. There's also another technology called PACER. It's a docketing technology utilized by the federal courts. And what we're going to do with all this stuff is we're going to show you the forms, the documents online, because they'll be in front of you in the computer lab, and you'll be working with them. So not only will you just know and hear about them, but you'll have some experience with them. We're not going to pretend that you're going to be experts at them, nor should you on an interview, but that you know about them, that you've seen them, that, the first time you're asked to do something with it won't be the first time you see it. You'll have a general understanding, and that you'll pick stuff up very quickly. All right, so that's pretty much the technology module. Legal writing and reasoning, again, I will teach that. Again, that will be in a computer lab, mainly because, I'm going to ask you to write during the class, and it's going to be, who writes longhand anymore? You want a computer to do that. And what I have found is I can't read your writing, so I need to be able to read it. So that's we finally got a lab for this one. I'm thrilled. What I really want to focus on legal writing and reasoning, first we're going to talk, in some ways I think it's the most ambitious module. We will learn how to write case briefs, and most paralegal programs will have a legal writing component, and it will involve cases and how to brief a case. What I want, and when you brief a case, judges write opinions, they get put in case law and everything. I just lost the screen, Stacy. I can go on, but just to let you know that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me bring it back, everyone.
Okay. So, yes. So case brief is primarily the way attorneys learn the law in law school. So everyone understands what a case brief is. You're deconstructing the case into its four basic parts. The case that the judge wrote and published. You want to bring out all the facts, put them in one section. There's always a question of law that the court is being asked to answer. You identify that question, then you identify the answer. The application and discussion is basically how the court arrived, what was the logic behind the court's decision in looking at the question and producing the answer. So most most writing paralegals will stop there. I want to take it a step further. We'll get that. We'll brief a bunch of cases, I think 6. But then I want to teach you how to write in what's called IRAC. IRAC is an acronym for the issue, the rule, the application, the conclusion. Lawyers are taught to write in the IRAC formula. They know the term IRAC. They also recognize and respond to if you say the word, well, the issue is, or if you say, well, is the rule this? If you use these terms in your written communication, I think you elevate your level of professionalism and the opportunity for them to look at you in a better, more educated light. So while some paralegals will write IRAC memorandums in a traditional legal sense, some will not. But even if you're in those that do not, whenever you write something to your attorney, you could use the IRAC memorandum. Just as a quick example, and I know we're running late, I always run late. I told you before about graded, not graded. That could be an IRAC discussion, that we could put that in an IRAC format. All right, so the issue is, are we going to grade or keep the course as a pass-fail? The rule is Boston University has internal guidance, regulations that say if it's not matriculating, it could be either pass-fail or it could be graded. Issue rule application. If we look at our program now, we're doing fine with a pass-fail system, but some outside entities, Mass Unemployment Office, some corporations will grade more or will help reimburse a program if it's graded, but not if it's pass-fail. Conclusion, let's change it to a graded system. So it's an IRAC methodology of analysis that attorneys know those words. They have specific meaning. It guides your focus and your analysis, and you could use it in many different situations. And that will elevate your level of professionalism in the office. Next slide. Real estate. Very fertile for paralegals. Even in the down market, to tell you the truth, it was a very fertile area of expertise, because even if real estate isn't selling, you're still doing refinancing, because the rates for financing are always different. And for a paralegal, whether you're buying a house for the first time or refinancing, the paperwork is going to be the same. And when I say paperwork, I mean paperwork, but it's transactional, it's complicated, it's skilled. It's not paper pushing by any stretch of the imagination. You're going to go through the basic real estate transactions. You're going to, both commercially and residentially, you're going to see the forms. You're going to work with the forms. If you've ever sold or a place or purchased a place, we're going to look at an offer to purchase. That's a specific form. What does it look like? How does it have to be filled out? Who fills it out? How long is it good for? We go over all of that. Next comes a purchase and sale agreement. Again, a very specific form. Whose name goes where? What's the time period? What are the conditions? How does it get executed? You see it, you fill it out. We also end the course with a HUD statement. Every legal transaction involving real estate purchase and sale will have a HUD transaction attached to it, whether it's a commercial or residential. And you actually fill out the HUD form. It's a long form. It's a complicated form. It's a form I hate, but that's why I'm not in real estate. It's very nitpicky. If you balance your checkbook, you're going to love the HUD statement. I never balance the checkbook, so it's not my favorite area. But it's definitely, you want to see a HUD and you want to work with it, so you sort of know what comes up and how to the penny things need to be. It's actually quite a great place for people to shine if they can, balance it to the penny the first time. It looks great. So you can go to an interview saying, I filled out HUD forms, I understand that, I find them fascinating. Business law is another module. A lot of paralegals working in the corporate field. We're going to focus on the different aspects of business law, the different types of corporations. Why do you have a corporation and why do you have a partnership? What's the difference? What are the corporate finance and security regulations? Primarily, we're going to talk about secure transactions, Uniform Commercial Code. Each state can adopt the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, or not. What states have adopted them, what states haven't. Article 9 is a specific article in UCC where most secure transactions are governed by, so we'll certainly cover that. Due diligence, all matters of that nature. And we will cover intellectual properties, copyrights, patents, trademarks, but not in depth, especially in patents. It's a very narrow field for patents, but we go over it, you'll have a brief understanding of it. What's left? Oh, probate and family law. Probate's really the law of dying. It's not a dying area, but we're all going to die, so it's going to affect us all. We go over wills. You'd be surprised how many paralegals kind of through a cut and paste now are doing a lot of wills. You have to know basically what's the process of creating a will, what are the questions to ask, where are the forms, how is the state governing it. Each state has its own laws regarding wills. They're similar, but they're different. What does it mean to die intestate? That basically means to die without a will. And if you die without a will, the state defaults, or the state defaults to your state's division of your assets. So you don't want to do that. You don't want the state to decide who's getting your assets. You want to decide that. What's an executor do? How do you appoint one to run over a will? We do a bunch of estate planning stuff. What is a trust? How is it created? we should all have living wills, healthcare proxies, and power of attorneys. And what's the difference between a power of attorney and a durable power of attorney? We go through all of that. It's a very important module. Frankly, it sort of brings up to everyone's minds what we all should be doing for ourselves. And finally, family law. It's basically divorce and child custody, alimony, dividing of assets. When is child support going to be required? When is it? When does it not? When can you modify it? I believe Alex is now covering a little bit about gay marriage and where that fits into the scheme of things. DOMA, repeals the Supreme Court, all that stuff. So it'll be timely as well. Litigation. Paralegals' positions can be divided into sort of two types: litigatory, litigation paralegals, and transactional, more like corporate and real estate. So litigation will go over really pretty much what a paralegal will do throughout the entire process of litigation. How do you form a complaint, which initiates a lawsuit? Who has to be mentioned in the complaint? What defendants, their addresses? How do I find that? Basically, we're going to follow all the rules of federal civil procedure. State rules will vary a little bit, but you'll get the basic gist. What happens once a complaint is filed? Defendant then files an answer or a motion to dismiss. What's the difference? Then we'll cover discovery period, which is actually the longest period of the litigation process. General discovery can be 3 to 5 years. And and paralegals are very involved in discovery. When you talk about discovery, there's two basic types: interrogatories, which are written questions, and depositions, which are oral questions. We go through what pains and penalties of perjury means, and when you're doing discovery, what you're discovering are the facts of a case, not the law, all right, but the facts. So you're trying to put together a factual story. What does settlement mean? What rights are given and taken away? What's the summary judgment, trial, and appeal? Basically the whole process, but what a paralegal does throughout that whole process. I think that's all 7 modules.
Yeah. Terrific. Joe, do you want me to take it from here?
I would love that.
All right, great. So I will just wrap it up here just to talk about the schedule and registration. So as Joe mentioned, we have our classroom program runs 4 times a year. The online program runs 6 times a year. So our upcoming class dates for the on-campus class, we have a spring class that starts April 5th. That runs through the end of July. There are weekend breaks in that class for the Easter holiday, as well as the Memorial Day weekend and July 4th. So there are three Saturdays that you don't meet due to those holidays. The summer course, which is our accelerated 2.5 week, you meet 6 days a week in that program, starts June 2nd and runs through June 17th. The cost of the program is $3,495, and as Joe mentioned, includes all the materials and books, so there aren't any extra fees or anything on top of that cost. Regarding some different funding options, we do require at the time of registration full payment for the course. Since this is a non-degree, non-credit program, the same sort of government funding that's used for 4-credit programs is not applicable to our program. So there is different private lending sources that you can look into through your own private bank, credit union, but there is also a loan option through Sallie Mae called the Sallie Mae Smart Option Loan, which I can give anyone information about. It's on our website as well. But if you apply and are accepted for that loan, they do guarantee up to $3,700, so it covers the cost of our program. They used to only provide $1,700. They recently increased that, so now it can cover the whole cost. So if you want more information about that, I can get that to you. If you're interested in registering, I've got our website here as well as our office number. That's also going to be on our last slide here So I've included my email. You can contact me. You can call me. Any questions. If you have content-related questions, I can forward those along to Joe as well. You can register for the class on our website. You can call us. And at this point, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So for anyone who has muted their line, you guys can unmute. I'm going to go through and unmute everyone as well. But feel free, you can type in the chat bar questions to us. You can voice them however you guys want to do it. But
we're here to answer your questions.
Yes, we are here. So does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yes. Who is
Hi.
this? Laura?
Hi, this is Laura, yes. I have a question because I have a bachelor's degree and I'm not sure if this is the right route. I mean, what would be the advantage of going, to get a certificate over a master's degree? Or disadvantage?
I can only tell you from my experience, and from the people I've talked to in the field, which are a lot of placement agents, I don't think anyone, I mean, I'm hesitant to say this, though I have a very strong answer. I don't know why I'm hesitating, Laura, because people can always tell you something differently. I don't know who's asking for a master's as a paralegal. If you're talking about a master's in paralegal, I didn't even know there was one.
Well, not paralegal, I'm sorry, legal studies.
Yeah, if you want to be a paralegal, I would definitely take a certificate program over legal studies.
Okay.
I wish I had more to offer you on that and to tell you why, and all I can tell you is I don't know anyone who's the whole certificate.
I guess it just looks better, I guess, on paper to have a master's versus a paralegal certificate is the only, thing that I'm coming up with, at least.
Yeah, and you know what, Laura, maybe you're right, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I know that would be true generally, but in this field, the certificate is starting to become required. And I say starting to become required because there's not one universal standard throughout all the 50 states and the federal government and all that. I will tell you this, you don't, in Massachusetts, don't need a certificate technically. And they're relatively recent, well, I would say 10, 15 years, because when the fields first started, you didn't even get certified. But I know now that people meaning employers, are looking for certificates. And I also know that we now have people taking this program who have been working paralegals for 15, 20 years. And the only reason they're taking this program is because they need the certificate. Because paralegals bill their time out to the client the way lawyers do, so they're producing revenue.
Right.
And clients will not pay unless, not all clients, but a lot of clients are starting to not pay the paralegal billing unless that paralegal has a certificate, which is why I'm saying I think certificate over masters, believe it or not.
Okay. And what type of job-seeking benefits do you provide once we have our certificate in place?
We do offer separate, and I talk about this once the class starts in front of the class, a 2-day, it's 2 nights, 6 to 9 program. For those who are interested, it's not required. What that basically does is roughly it'll be 2 Thursday nights at BU from 6 to 9 each night. The first night would be how to do a basic resume, how to research a firm, or how to create networking opportunities for yourself. We have a book I wrote that is just pure genius. And we do sort of support you that way. And then the Sunday in between those 2 Thursdays, you would email us your resume, and we would look at it. And the next Thursday would be a 20-minute time slot that you show up for just that 20 minutes, and we go over your resume with you. I will tell you, one of the best things you can do, and I know it might sound intimidating. It used to sound intimidating to me. I used to hate the word networking. And then I really realized as I've gotten older that networking is not difficult. We do it every day. It's just putting a spin on it that works and empowers us. So what I would suggest today is You're on Facebook. Everyone's on Facebook. Put on your Facebook post, I took a seminar today, webinar. How fun. Never use a computer like that. I'm exploring paralegal. It's really exciting. Does anyone know any paralegals? You're starting to generate a conversation around your professionalism and your intention, and you might be surprised who you know. If you don't know anyone direct, you know who you know, but you don't know who they know necessarily. Right. So you're just starting to build it up, and, oh, I'd love to talk to you about it. You're starting a network. You're starting a contact. One last thing, because I can go on and on. When you network, don't think about what you can get from the person. Think about what you can give them. That, if you take away nothing else, that's a very powerful thing to take away. And if you're thinking, oh, I've got nothing to give them, I want to get into the field, paralegals read. Have you read a good book lately? Pass it on. If you read a good article, pass it on. You have something to give them.
Great. Thank you.
And something that I'll just add on to what Joe was saying is that in addition to our career seminar that is offered to students in the course, is that we don't offer any direct career placement for our students. However, we do get a lot of job postings sent to us, internships that are posted on our website. They're also distributed out to our students. So we're constantly in contact with employers who are looking and interested in our students. We don't necessarily make, that sort of placement, but we definitely push out all those opportunities to our students.
Yeah, and at the risk of being and sounding defensive, I think any institution that says they place, I would look at very skeptically, because that's not what educational opportunity or educational places do. That's not their area.
Right, and I didn't infer that. I just wanted to know what programs you had in place afterwards. But obviously, you're not a placement firm. You're a university.
Well, we can put you in touch with them.
Also, a lot of colleges do know their percentage of students that find employment within a certain amount of time after graduating. Do you have any statistics on that?
We do not track our career placement for our students after the point that they've earned their certificate. What we have, this is related, but I don't have quantitative hard data on that. What we have tracked is that students who earn a paralegal certificate, and this is both online and in the classroom through our program, that those who are either already working in the field, so whether they're legal secretaries or they have experience in the legal profession, they've had some sort of education, or they already have a bachelor's degree, that those students, it's around a 75% rate that have found advancement within their careers within, say, I think it's a 3-month period. So we definitely, I can affirmatively say that those students, I think Joe could probably attest to this for folks that he talks to, that we definitely find, there's a lot of movement within the field, and that getting the certificate definitely propels people a lot more quickly. And that's not to say that those students who don't have that experience or don't have the bachelor's degree don't have those same opportunities, but we've just seen that it's a quicker transition for those that already have it.
Yeah, I mean, I know students are placing. I know some are struggling harder than others to get that first job. I know the first job's the hardest. It really depends on your background. It depends on, what your resume says. It depends on, those things are factors. It's not one size fit all. And there's, obviously you know this, but there's no magic wand for any profession. I can tell you, I was riding the subway the other day in New York. I live part-time in New York. And a student came up to me and said, she recognized me. Thank God I remembered her name.
An online student?
No, classroom.
Okay.
And because I wouldn't recognize him from online. But anyway, she got a job in New York, and I did remember her. She took the career seminar place because she went to school in New York. She was up at Boston, living with her family that took the program. And she got a firm in New York. And New York firms, well, they pay a lot, but that's different. It's a different. It costs a lot to live in New York. But I also had another student tell me that she went to Duke undergrad, and however much money she spent at Duke, she said, nothing opened it up to her like the paralegal program. But, those are anecdotal situations for what they're worth. What you could do is, explore yourself, call a placement agent, look at the job trends and all that other stuff. Our research indicates that the career is going, I think Bureau of Labor and Statistics said it's growing by 36% by the year 2018.
Yes.
Are there opportunities for folks to do paralegal work at home?
Gretchen, I can tell you this year, today, I will answer that differently than I would have a year ago. Mm-hmm. It is changing, and it is surprising me. It used to be that it would only be helpful if you had a tremendous amount of paralegal, or possible if you had a tremendous amount of paralegal work prior on your resume. I can tell you now, it's happening more and more often. I know a couple paralegals that are working strictly out of their house, and I'm a little surprised by it. And they're saying that people are very interested in them, and they're billing out under the umbrella of the attorneys that they're working for there. So it is widening every day. But part of that, I would also suggest, is, you have to look at who you know, what your job skills are prior to this, and who not in a in a good sense. It's like, can you get one or two people to give you those first assignments, even if you do them as an intern, that you can discuss them, put them on your resume. Do you know any paralegals in your family? Are friends, spouses, or boyfriends, or partners, girlfriends, are their attorneys? If you could work that network to get one or two intern type positions, build up that sort of network type thing, and put it on your resume, that will help a lot.
Now,
there's also temp to perm positions. I'm sorry.
Are you talking about contract positions that would work on a case?
Yes.
Great. One more question. Is there a licensing procedure for this? Do you have to be a licensed paralegal? Is that something that...
No. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Massachusetts.
Okay, no. No, there's licensing is a legal term, and there is no licensing in the state of Massachusetts. There's not what I would call licensing requirements anywhere, but in places like California and I think Texas now, in order to call yourself a paralegal, it's not a license, but just the ability to call yourself, market yourself as a paralegal, is going to have certain restrictions. They're going to look at, but even those are sort of tiered. So they would look at, are you an undergraduate? Do you possess your undergraduate? If you are, you're in tier 1. If you went to an ABA approved program, you could call yourself a paralegal right away and market yourself as such. If you went to an intensive program like ours in California and in Texas, I believe, you would call yourself a legal assistant, and in a year call yourself a paralegal. If you didn't have this certificate from our program, you would have to work 3 years in the field before you could call yourself a paralegal. Is that helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you.
All right.
I have a question regarding the ABA. Are you ABA approved?
No, not at all. We used to be, or we were on that track, but obviously if you talk to an ABA program, they're going to say, oh, you have to be, and they may sincerely believe that. It's not our experience in the least. If you have your undergraduate degree, why? It's anachronistic. Why would you spend 2 more years and $20,000 to get your paralegal certificate? And that's what ABAs require. It's just not necessary. And frankly, 50% of attorneys don't belong to the ABA. So it sounds good, it sounds ominous. My experience is it means it means nothing.
Right. And just to tack on to what Joe was saying, is that nationally, so there are about 1,200 paralegal certificate programs in the U.S., and only about 250 of those are ABA approved. So it's a very small percentage, and quite honestly, we have found, and I've heard from other programs as well, is that the name of the institution where you are studying and where you are earning your certificate has a lot more clout and emphasis than does an ABA approval in a program, of which, so obviously we're biased here at Boston University, but definitely, I would do your research and look into those programs as well if you're curious, just so that you have, a fair assessment and comparison.
Again, we used to be. We moved away from it.
Right.
Intentionally. It gets very political because, there's certain paralegal organizations, and I'm not going to remember them all now, National Association of Paralegals, NAPA, NALA, there's a bunch of them that kind of all sound the same, and they're competing against each other, and they're competing against each other for your membership, and some of them are favoring the ABA approach because, in my opinion, they tend to you have to take their test for their certificate, and they make money off you taking their programs and their studying and you being part of their certificate. Employers generally don't care. I can't say no employer cares, but it's the rare employer that will care about that. And again, very political, depending on where, who has power in the state that you're going to. And right now, there's only 2 states.
So I know this is going to change depending on where you get a job, but I have a question about what workday as a paralegal really looks like, and overtime, is it like, so, I have lawyers in the family that worked, quite a bit. Is that the same kind of dynamic? Are you able to find part-time or a reasonable schedule with this? What does that look like?
Yeah, obviously, as you know, it's going to really vary for the different jobs. I can answer the question in general guidelines, but I need to point out to everyone, maybe not yourself, because you might know a little more from family members, but that these are general trends, okay? For the most part, paralegals are not burdened by the hours that some attorneys can be. For the most part, transactional paralegal positions, real estate, corporate, as opposed to litigation paralegals, transactional have more 9 to 5, 8 to 6 jobs. Litigation, if you've got a case going to trial, you could be putting in a lot of hours, the week or 2 preceding the trial, getting ready for it. Generally, maybe 50% of the time, if you work above a 40-hour week as a paralegal, you're going to get time and a half. So I shouldn't even say generally, that's a possibility out there. It is kind of all over the place. Paralegals are having a better work-life balance than attorneys. It's not the same, it's not the same. Again, it depends on where you're working, but for the most part, you're going to get a balance as a paralegal. That answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just, curious about that because
No, I don't blame you. Absolutely.
Are there some programs that are better for litigational, people who are interested in litigational paralegal as opposed to transactional, or are they all sort of standard?
Wait, could you say that again?
Sure. Are there certain programs that are better for a person who's interested in litigation as opposed to a person who's interested in transaction?
No, there really isn't.
Okay. And is there, at the end of this, do you sit for a test? Or is there some kind of a standard, is there a test, is what I'm wondering.
There's 7.
Okay. At each module.
Yeah, at the end of each module,
Yes.
You will be given a test to pass that module.
Yes, but not at the end of, and once you receive the certificate, you do not have to sit for a board test.
No.
Great.
No.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, I noticed, so I don't know if it's different, the same, immigration law wasn't on the list. What does that look like? Is it covered? Is it not covered?
It's not specifically covered, but when we do research covers everything, because if you're going to work in immigration law, you're going to have to be able to research immigration cases and research immigration regulations. So the methodology of research will be the same for any area of the law. So it will cover it in that sense, and I do have some immigration questions, but it's not a focus. I don't know that any program really focuses. I don't know that you need to focus on immigration because you have to understand, like when attorneys go to school, law school, when paralegals go to paralegal school, you're not learning the black letter law for the most part. You're learning how to find the law because the law is constantly changing. It's our common law system. It's organic. It swells. It grows. It constricts. You will learn how to research immigration law, what the basic statutes are, what the basic case law is, and that is sort of how you approach the different specialties.
Right.
Question?
A lot of great questions. Anyone else? You can definitely, like I said, email myself. I've got my email there. You can also call me at that number provided. Just as a reminder, our next class starts on April 5th. The class, if you are interested in registering, I would encourage you to do it sooner rather than later. Our winter class did fill up, and we had a waiting list. So we usually end registration about a week before the class begins. So we're looking at the end of March as kind of a registration deadline for that. I will also, if anyone wants a copy of the slides, the webinar has also been recorded. If you want a recording of that and you want to share it with anyone or just have it for your reference, email me and let me know. Anything else from anyone? Okay, great. Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. No? Okay, perfect.
Yep, I'm good. Good luck to all of you.
Yeah, thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much. Best of luck as you search out your paralegal interests. And if you have any questions, please get in touch. Otherwise, hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone.